This is the robot that let me forget about vacuuming for weeks at a time, and it didn't choke on cords, socks, or pet messes. This is the iRobot Roomba Plus 504 Vac Robot Vacuum with the AutoEmpty Dock. And after living with it through pet shedding season, muddy spring transitions, and normal weekday chaos, I've got a clear sense of where it shines and where it doesn't. I think of this as a vacuum-only, high-automation cleaner for busy homes. I don't need a combo mop here. I want a robot that nails dry debris, doesn't get stuck, and just handles the routine without babysitting. If you've got pets, mixed floors, and a mix of open areas and tight spaces, this lands squarely in that sweet spot. If you're trying to replace mopping, this isn't it. But if you want a vacuum that practically runs itself and deals with hair and carpet well, that's the lane it was built for. Physically, it looks like a modern Roomba with a LiDAR turret on top. That little tower is the reason it navigates so cleanly, though it adds a bit of height. Under a low sofa, I noticed it can't squeeze where a flatter robot might. The top is matte, which hides fingerprints and dust, and the buttons are simple and clicky. The light ring feedback actually helps. If I glance over and see the white glow circling, I know it's working. Blue pulses mean it found a particularly dirty spot. The dock is taller than a standard charger, but still compact enough to tuck next to a credenza. I appreciate the sealed bag in the base. Swapping it out doesn't create a dust cloud, and I don't think about it for a long stretch. Setup took me less than 15 minutes. I paired it in the app, ran a mapping pass without the vacuum motor to save battery, and watched it draw an accurate layout in one go. The app let me name rooms, carve out no-go zones, and set targeted areas like under the dining table. I like that I can tell it to clean the kitchen or the hallway, and it makes a beeline there. When I need a quick reset after dinner, I just say the room name to my smart speaker and it gets to work without me touching the app. The responsiveness is what wins me over. It starts quickly, drives in straight, tidy lines, and doesn't waste time circling randomly. On performance, I care about two things: how well it pulls stuff out of carpets and how gracefully it avoids trouble. iRobot touts big suction numbers, but the real test is the entry mat and my living room rug. On the entry mat, it picked up gritty sand and fine dust that always seems to grind in. On medium pile carpet, I could feel the fibers stand up after a pass, and the AutoEmpty Dock would roar and pull out a surprising amount from the bin. Hair management is where the dual rubber brushes earn their keep. I didn't have to cut hair off the rollers, which used to be a weekly ritual with older brush designs. I did pop off the end caps once to clear a little buildup on the bearings. Took seconds. Obstacle avoidance actually works. I watched it pause at a charging cable, identify it, then slide around without touching it. Same with a sock near the hamper. It's also handled a couple of pet accidents by steering around them, which is the nightmare scenario I no longer think about. I don't run it in disaster zones on purpose, but real life happens, and it's handled those moments responsibly. Battery life is more than adequate. In my layout, it completes about 1,400 square feet on a single charge in standard suction. If I crank suction up for carpets, it still finishes without a mid-job top-up. If I force it into a tougher routine with double passes in high traffic zones, it will dock briefly and then resume at the exact spot it paused, which is how it should be. The dock emptying cycle is loud. It's a 10-second blast I don't want going off during a nap or late at night. I solved it by scheduling cleans while I'm out, which is the simplest fix, and I think of that emptying blast as the trade-off for not carrying a dustbin to the trash every run. I've put it through a bunch of everyday scenarios. Crumbs under the dining table after a big dinner, I set a zone there to do 2 passes, and it clears everything, including the fine dust that collects around chair legs. Tumbleweeds of dog hair in the hallway and on area rugs, the brushes don't tangle, and Carpet Boost kicks the motor up when it feels resistance on rug fibers. Late night cleans in low light are uneventful. LiDAR doesn't need light, so it navigates just as cleanly as during the day. The only time it hesitated was on a very dark rug with a high contrast border. Cliff sensors got cautious, and it took a moment to commit. It's also not a champion at tall thresholds. Standard transitions are fine, but a steep lip between my tile and hardwood took it a couple of tries to climb. Once it learned the route, it managed more consistently. Edge cleaning is good, not perfect. The side brush flicks debris into the path, but the round shape can't physically reach into sharp 90-degree corners the way a D-shaped robot can. That said, The double pass settings and the dirt detect behavior where it lingers on messy spots keep baseboards and corners looking clean enough that I don't feel the need to spot vacuum with a handheld very often. For a specific use case, I lean on it for kitchen recovery. I cook most nights, and there's always flour, coffee grounds, and crumbs. I tell it to clean the kitchen. It gets there in a straight line, and I set it to a higher suction profile for that room only. While it's running, I wipe counters. When it docks, it empties, and I don't touch anything. My floors feel clean when I walk barefoot after, and that tactile difference is what convinced me to keep it on a daily schedule. There are thoughtful touches that make the experience better. I like that I can set high traffic areas to always get 2 passes without forcing the whole home into a marathon. I appreciate the app offers suggested keep-out zones after it recognizes recurring obstacles. The map editor is straightforward, so if I move furniture and the flow changes, I can split or merge rooms in a minute. The robot also does a good job coming off the dock, scanning, and choosing an efficient route instead of meandering. I've had 0 instances of it slamming baseboards. The bumper is sensitive and gentle, and the approach speeds are controlled. Maintenance hasn't been burdensome. I check the rollers weekly out of habit, pop the filter for a quick tap clean, and that's it. The bag in the dock lasts a long time. In my home, with pets, I swap it roughly every 2.5 months. The swap is clean. Pull tab, toss, slide a new one in. No dust poof, which matters if you're sensitive to allergens. On noise, the robot itself is a low hum that fades into the background, but I still prefer to run it when I'm not on calls. The dock blast, as I mentioned, is the only moment I actively avoid hearing. I did run into a couple quirks. The dark rug caution shows up occasionally, so I added a keep-out zone on the black fringe area to avoid hesitation. Under my lowest couch, the LiDAR tower prevents entry. I slide that couch forward during a deeper clean with a stick vac until I rearrange furniture. And when I cranked suction to the max for the entire house, it finished, but I could tell it was nearing the edge of its battery. Balanced mode feels like the right default for daily runs, with targeted higher suction in specific rooms. After living with it, I see the Roomba Plus 504 as a hands-off vacuum for people who value reliability over novelty. I get consistent coverage, strong carpet performance, excellent hair handling, and true obstacle avoidance. I don't get mopping, razor-sharp corner cleaning, or magic powers under ultra-low furniture. For me, the trade is worth it, because I want floors that feel clean underfoot, and I want to think about vacuuming as little as possible. If you have pets, mixed flooring, and want a robot that you can set on a schedule and trust, this is the one I'd keep. If you need wet cleaning built in, you'll still need a separate tool. If your furniture clearance is super tight, or you have a lot of very tall thresholds, measure and plan your zones. But in a typical home with kids, pets, and real messes, this has been dependable, intelligent, and low maintenance. If you found this video useful, subscribe for more practical hands-on tech reviews, and leave a comment with your questions or your own experience with robot vacuums.